Welcome to this part of the ESOC 4th in Gothenburg 2018. My name is Katharina Sunnerhagen and I work here in Gothenburg, and I will have a talk with my colleague, Dr. Helen Rodgers from Newcastle. Could you introduce yourself, please?
Hello, I'm Helen Rodgers. I'm a stroke physician and Professor of Stroke Care in Newcastle, UK.
And I was asked to talk to you because you've done this really, in my view, very interesting trial regarding follow-up rehabilitation for people that have had a stroke. So could you please tell us a little bit about this trial? For instance, why did you start doing the trial?
So in terms of stroke care, we have this concept of organised stroke care, that is stroke units and early supported discharge. And there's very strong evidence from randomised controlled trials, meta-analysis and health economics that these reduce death and disability. However, when we look at the longer term needs of stroke patients, they are numerous and often hidden, for example, fatigue and cognition. And people often tell us that they feel abandoned by health services in the longer term and often don't know where to turn to. So we were keen to try to extend the concept of organised stroke care by providing a new service called an extended stroke rehabilitation service, which was provided for 18 months once early supported discharge had finished. And that service consisted of a review by a member of the early supported discharge team who the patient would know, and these reviews were predominantly by telephone at 1, 3, 6, 12 and 18 months, and they would cover the issues that had been identified in needs surveys of stroke patients, for example mobility, for example communication, activities of daily living, etc. So the assessment consisted of a structured interview covering these issues, followed by joint goal setting between the patient and the therapist for up to 5 goals. And then there was action planning, and that could either be providing advice and discussion, it could be contacting services that were already involved in the patient's care to help to address the issues that had been identified. It could be signposting to other services, particularly voluntary services that were available, or it could be referral to other services. So we thought this model could be developed in other countries and other places.
So if I understood what you said, I mean, you basically mapped out, individualized, identified the problems and the strengths and the weaknesses for each patient, and then you help them to find a roadmap and how to go to solve their problems.
Exactly, but we did it in a structured way, making sure on each assessment we covered all of the needs which had been identified to make sure that we were picking up issues that were important to patients and making plans for them.
So who delivered the help that was needed?
So in terms of the help that was needed, that could either be self-management by the patient, it could either be the services if that they're already involved, or there was the potential to refer on. So there was a wide range of options available to patients and to the therapist.
Mm-hmm. So this means that this was truly individualized.
We hope so.
Yeah, yeah. So I mean, it's like you go through the checklist and then you try to identify the needs and so on. Okay, so that's to me this sounds like a very good concept. So what happened?
So we recruited 19 centres from the UK, and we provided training to deliver the intervention, and there are manuals and documents available to support that. They delivered the intervention to just over 570 patients were randomised, and half received the intervention. 80% of sessions were delivered as we anticipated, and in terms of what was delivered, it did cover the range of needs that we expected, and goals were set. In terms of the type of intervention that was delivered, it was predominantly about advice or liaising with other services, or encouraging practice or self-practice of exercises or activities that patients were already doing, and there was a relatively low amount of referral to other services. So in terms of our evaluation, unfortunately, we found that there was no effect of this new service upon extended activities of daily living, which is what we were hoping to impact on. Mm-hmm. So this is a neutral trial in terms of activities of daily living. Mm-hmm. We looked at the impact upon mood, and again, we have got no significant differences there, and no significant differences on the ordinal regression analysis of the modified Rankin Oxford Handicap Scale. We do have one very interesting positive result to report at this meeting, and that is at 24 months, there was much greater satisfaction in the services that people had received in favour of the intervention group compared to the control group. So people who received our service were much more satisfied at 24 months with the care that had been provided.
Okay, so I have some reflections about that. Do you think, it's a neutral trial, you say, is it because it didn't have an effect, you think, or was it that the intervention was not, or that the outcome analysis were not really matched towards the intervention delivered?
So that's a really good question. But if we look at what the features of the Nottingham Extended Activities of Daily Living, there are 4 domains. So there is mobility, leisure, kitchen, and one I've just forgotten. But so that did actually map quite well onto the health needs that were identified within the national surveys that have been done of stroke needs. So we would expect to influence it, and I think we were very surprised that we didn't find a difference. However, again, more global Oxford Handicap Scale, we're not powered to look at differences for that, but nevertheless, we've not got a significant difference on our pre-specified analysis. So I think we have got outcomes which we would expect to impact on with the intervention, so it's very disappointing that we haven't seen a difference here.
And I was thinking, since I like scales, what you're using, you're having ordinal scales, and the statistical treatment may not have been. You use them as intervals. As interval scales, as they were longitudinals, and maybe that kind of influenced the outcome if you powered for them to be.
That's an interesting question. But if we actually look at the raw data comparing people's needles at baseline and at 12 and 24 months, we see a very minor improvement of just over 1 point. Between baseline and 24 months in the intervention group, and a decline of just short of 2 points in the control group. So, even without statistical analysis, people are not improving in either group significantly between baseline and 24 months. And again, I think that's really disappointing that neither group have improved significantly.
However, I can say that to me it's disappointing, but at the same time, what I know is from the Swedish Stroke Register is that about 16 to 20% of the populations that were independent at 3 months were dependent at 12 months.
Wow.
So maybe what you have done is to stop the decline.
I think, again, that's possible, but there was a very small decline in the control group. It may be that our control group we have very good centres participating is the other explanation, and we really do need to do further exploring to understand this result.
Yeah, and also the question, were they so good from the beginning that they were actually getting up, so there's very little room for improvement. The way the scales are working.
So again, most people in our study had the potential to improve by the 6 points, which would be the clinical meaningful differences, but there were a small group of people who, because of the seat, were recruited and who would never be able to improve by the clinically important difference. So again, that's a good statistical point.
Well, I look forward to hear more about this study, and I think that we should be very happy to have a large randomized controlled trial in rehab, and feel a bit sad that it's neutral, but it's done, and I think you've done a wonderful job. So I think good work. Thank you.